The pain of always being the strong one. You know what nobody ever talks about? How exhausting it is to be the strong one all the time. How draining it is to always be the calm voice in chaos. The one who holds everything together when everyone else falls apart. People rely on you like you're made of steel. Like you don't break. Like you don't get tired. Like you don't need anything. They see your strength as endless, automatic, expected. They don't realize that every time you show up for them, you're using energy you never get back. They don't see the nights you lie awake trying to hold yourself together, wishing just once that someone would take care of you the way you take care of everyone else. Being the strong one isn't a personality trait. It's a role you learned, and you learned it because you had no choice. Somewhere in your life, probably earlier than you even realize, you became the person who had to be strong. Maybe you grew up in a family where emotions were either too much or not allowed at all. Maybe the adults around you were fragile, unpredictable, overwhelmed. So you learned to stabilize the environment by stabilizing yourself. You became the responsible one, the mature one, the understanding one, the one who figured things out because nobody else could. And while other kids were allowed to fall apart, be messy, cry, or ask for help, you became the emotional anchor long before you understood what that even meant. You didn't choose strength. Strength chose you because weakness wasn't an option. And because it kept everything from collapsing back then, you carried it into adulthood like a default setting. The painful truth is that people love your strength but rarely consider its cost. They come to you because you're reliable. They vent because you listen. They break down because you won't. You're the one who fixes, soothes, advises, supports. You're the one who shows up even when you're exhausted, even when your own world is falling apart. You're the one who gives comfort, not the one who receives it. And after a while, you start to feel invisible, not because people don't see you, but because they only see what you do for them. You're the safe space for everyone else, but where is your safe space? You're the person everyone depends on, but who can you depend on? You're the emotional backbone of every relationship you have, but what happens when your own heart starts to fracture? The worst part is, you blame yourself for struggling. You think strength means never having a breaking point. When you feel overwhelmed, you tell yourself you should be able to handle it. When you feel lonely, you convince yourself you're asking for too much. When you feel tired, you push yourself harder because you believe resting is a privilege you haven't earned. You silence your pain because you're so used to prioritizing everyone else's comfort. That's the curse of being the strong one. Nobody checks on you because you've taught them you don't need checking on. And every time you hold yourself together without anyone noticing, you reinforce the idea that you he unbreakable even when you're breaking. People think strength is about resilience, but sometimes strength is just a beautiful word for emotional neglect. You've learned to carry your burdens alone because you learned early that nobody else would. You learned to swallow your feelings because expressing them never led the Coroni to guilt, conflict, or dismissal. You learned to smile through the pain because showing it meant being misunderstood or judged. And part of you still believes that your value comes from how much you can handle without help. You don't realize how heavy your life has been because you've never known what it feels like to share the weight. But here's what you need to hear. Strength is not your purpose. It's your armor. And armor is meant to protect wounds, not replace them. The fact that you've survived everything you have doesn't mean you weren't hurt by it. The fact that you've kept going doesn't mean it didn't break something inside you. You can't heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You can't rest if you're always in survival mode. You can't receive support if you never allow yourself to need it. And the truth is, needing help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. You're not meant to carry life alone. You're meant to be supported, held, understood, cared for. You deserve that just as much as anyone else. Part of the pain of being the strong one is that you've learned to hide how much you're hurting. You're so good at masking that even the people closest to you have no idea what you're carrying. And a dangerous thing happens when people think you're okay, they'll leave you to figure it out alone. They assume you don't need help. They assume he always finey. They assume you're built differently. But you're not. You're just skilled at pretending. And the more you pretend, the more unseen you become. But here's something important. Your strength is not a personality trait. It's a response. A response to chaos. A response to neglect. A response to expectations placed on you long before you had the power to refuse them. Being the strong one is the role you played to survive, not who you truly are. And you're allowed to outgrow roles that were formed in pain. You're allowed to put the weight down. You're allowed to let someone else be strong for once. You're allowed to choose softness, vulnerability, rest. Healing doesn't mean becoming weak. Healing means learning to receive what you be, banguvi. It means letting people show up for you. It means being honest when you're not okay. It means allowing yourself to break without believing. Breaking makes you unworthy. It means rewriting the story you've lived your whole life, and the story that says your value lies in how much you can endure. Because your value isn't measured by your strength. Your value is inherent, untouched, unconditional. You deserve relationships where you don't have to be the fixer. You deserve conversations where you can be honest instead of composed. You deserve support that comes without asking, care that doesn't feel like a burden, love that doesn't require you to be invincible. You deserve to be held the way you hold others. And the moment you believe that, truly believe it, to stop letting people place the weight of the world on your shoulders, you stop pretending you're fine when you're drowning. You stop accepting relationships where strength is expected but never reciprocated. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to let the weight fall. And the day you finally stop being the strong one for everyone else is the day you finally become strong for yourself.